So, I wanted to talk about love, but not in some weird, rudimentary way like a romantic relationship or the love of a possession or even the love of a place. I want to talk about that inward dialogue that we have. We don't appreciate what silence is for. It breeds self love. And in order to love anything outside of yourself, you have to love the inside of yourself. I mean, how many times do we get down on ourselves for silly things that we've done in repetition that had a negative outcome, negative impact? I'm very much convinced that there are no such thing as mistakes. Everything that we do is with purpose. We meant to do the things that we did. We meant to put our heart on the line for somebody to break so we could get to a place where we could love ourselves enough to not allow that to happen again. And that doesn't mean that you're bereft of it or you're never going to face that heartache again. What it means is that you're not so attached to other people externally that they change your being. It takes a lot of silence, a lot of sitting with yourself, a lot of contemplation, and a lot of integrating that shadow. You know, Carl Jung talks about the shadow and how important it is to not only recognize it, to see it as it comes up, but to embrace it for what it is, because it got you through all of those times, all of those hard times. And it didn't know any better. I mean, it's very survival oriented, but it's bigger than the survival. It goes into self-preservation, mentally, emotionally, physically. Your ego's job is to protect you at all costs. The problem with ego is, more often than not, it's wrong. You have one encounter with somebody and you don't like that person, and then all of a sudden you don't like that person because of their skin color or because of their religious background or whatever you want to concoct. But you had one situation that was bad, and now all of a sudden everybody that looks like them or acts like them, you got to keep away. It's not true. We miss out on so much beauty in the world by being bigoted or misogynistic or whatever the psychological disorder is. Embracing yourself means embracing others, and vice versa. We all make mistakes. We all mess up. Don't come from an emotional point when you're having a heated discussion with somebody. If somebody hurt your feelings, don't raise the tone of your voice. Don't get all in. So why did you hurt me? Or that hurts. Are you doing that on purpose? You know, I'm sure there's some people that'll go, yeah, I am doing it on purpose, you know? And that's cool too. At least you know where you stand. But most of the time, dramatically, most of the time, it's a miscommunication or a misunderstanding, or somebody's coming from a place of trauma that hurts them at their own level, and they want to make other people feel that way. That's, you know, generational trauma is that way. I was raised by a stepfather who was very bigoted, you know, and he was very steadfast in his belief patterns. And it made me feel as a little kid growing up that I wasn't enough, or that I was wrong all the time. I was looking at things contrary to what they actually are, because I mean, he would tell me, you know, black people are bad and Jewish people are bad, and, you know, and I'd go, why don't I feel that? You know, if this guy's being truthful here, why don't I feel like these people are bad? Well, it's because they fucking weren't. You know, he had a bad encounter at some point, and then boom, he ran with it. Assumptions. You can assume so much bullshit that it gets stuck in your head and you think that's what life is about, and it's not. Womanizers. Like, oh man, some girl in 5th grade broke my heart, so that means I got to destroy every woman I come across. Or think of them lesser than myself. It's so silly. And it's just bullshit. There's no other good way to put it. So yeah, it took me years and years to realize I wasn't fucking wrong about these things. He was. When I was a kid, I've always had this fascination with duality. Skulls and butterflies, man, And I like the dark and the light. I find something very beautiful about both of them. And so I used to draw skulls when I was a kid. A lot of skulls. And my stepdad got up my ass so far that it was during the Geraldo period where all kids were satanic in the 80s, which was total bullshit too. But people believed it. God, yeah, they believed it, man. And so, yeah, he thought I was a Satanist. And then there was a moment where I thought I was a Satanist too. I was like, I don't know why I'm drawn to drawing skulls. Well, it's because I was embracing the idea of death, our mortality. I didn't know it at the time. I wasn't consciously doing it, but it drew me in. But I also loved fucking butterflies. I love hummingbirds, robins, sparrows. I love chipmunks and fucking, I love nature. I love the existence, spring, bringing forth new bounties, I love the idea of duality and change and permanence. And, my stepdad, God rest his soul, could not fathom that. He could not understand. So he didn't know what to call me. And that's kind of cool, because I don't think anybody needs to be called anything. I don't like labels. I don't like the idea that you have to fit into a grid that society decides is the grid that you need to fit in. I think it's nonsense. It's just absolute bullshit. If you identify as anything, identify as a being. We all have the divine feminine and the divine masculine inside of us, to use more spiritual terms. And the embracing of that creates the balance that we need to focus on who we really are. I'm a huge fan of Ramana Maharishi, and I love his practice. He didn't really believe in meditation per se as much as directing inward for self-realization. Who am I? I am. And when the I falls away, that's when you realize what it is. And it's a big scope. It's this big picture that is just unfathomable. We try to pretend that we've got it all down, and there's nothing down to get, because as soon as we have it figured out, it changes. And that's funny. In a weird sort of way, it's funny. I think that's what God's joke is. That you'll never, ever, ever get this all figured out, because you're not supposed to, because there's nothing to figure out. That fucks my head up. I look at it, and I've been looking at it in meditation for years. And it seems to me the best thing that we can do is be excited. Follow your bliss, follow your passions, whatever those may be. You don't have a specific purpose. You just have to get out there, enjoy it, be one with it. If you dig nature, get out in nature. Right? But I'm also of a tantric school where we need to experience as much as we can to burn that shit out in the best way possible. Burn that shit out. Use colorful language. Dance in the middle of the street. Be crazy. But do no harm. We're all made of love and light. As always, much love.